Welcome to the Jail Widow. I am Ada Kay, and I lost my husband to prison. This is my story, my experiences, and my survival journey. This is not legal advice. This is where jail widows gather together to support and encourage one another.
Well, good evening, everybody. Nice to have you here. I'm so happy to see you. It has been a wonderful Memorial Day for most everybody. I want to take the moment to kind of remember our military. I wished I could play this audio that I have that I absolutely love. Maybe I can find it. It is a wonderful tribute. Um, it is a quartet that used to sing this fabulous song, and I'm going to try and find them because I really want to play this. I play it every Memorial Day, every I don't know how to say it. What's the word I'm looking for? How do I put it? 4th of July, all that stuff. Well, this group is called the Acoustics. It's a barbershop quartet. I was friends with them. So I played this. Hopefully, I don't get copyright infringed, but we'll try it and we'll see. We shall try and see. I really hope we don't get nailed for this. But I feel it's a very important thing that we should do today. So, with further ado, this is one of my favorite groups. It's an old recording, but enjoy.
Unfurl the banner and raise it to the sky. Let eagle cry from mountain high, the never-ending watchword of our nation. Now behold this gem of all the wonder of the western sky, the emblem of the brave and true, the flag of our liberty, flag of our destiny. Red and white and starry blue stream out of the banner so high. Every heart will sing about it all across the land. We raise our voices far and near for all to hear the echo of a chorus grand. Every heart will swell with pride to sing of our liberty, sing of our destiny. As with joy we now extol the flag waving over the land. Let us all hail the flag in one accord. Let us cheer it with fervent elation. It's the flag of the martyrs gone before. It's the flag, the banner of our nation. It's a big rolling share, our dreams above it again with the foundation. It's the hope of the peoples that are now oppressed and the symbol of their own emancipation. Hooray for the flag of the free. May it wave as our standard forever. The gem of the land and the sea. Ever hoisted proud and high. All nations remember the day when our fathers with mighty endeavor proclaimed as they marched to the fray, that by their might and by their right it waits forever. Every time the people hear the bell of freedom calling, one and all. Every living people of acceptance will answer freedom's call. Everywhere the bold and gallant souls come forth to bear their cross of duty, rising up one to light and die behind the flag of freedom's beauty. And through the hearts of all who never, following the stars that fight forever, marching to the quest to east or west, sick, well distressed, the freedom press cry out, hooray for the flag of the free. As our standards forever, the temple of the land and the sea, ever hoisted proud and high. All nations remember the day when our fathers with mighty endeavor proclaimed as they marched to the fray, defended by our might, ever standing for the right, you waits forever. Hail to the banner that waves the stars, the strive for stars that rise.
Y'all.
Represent.
Y'all, that group was awesome. I love them. I was very good friends with them for a long time. I kind of lost contact. I was in Sweet Adelines, which is a female version of what you just saw. No, I never sang that song because it was too dang fast. They are international championship quartet from 1990, and Panache was the female version quartet international champion of 1990. Sally Briner was in that quartet, and she became my bestest of friends. She was in my wedding. She's singing with the angels now, but wow. That's just something that, I always play that on these kind of days. And, my father served in the military and he passed away a few years ago. And we're not going to get crying on that, okay? If I keep talking about it, I'm going to keep crying. All righty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a little bit. For those of you who are just joining, hi, I'm Ada Kay. Yes, you did get to hear the Stars and Stripes Forever from Acoustics. Hi, Ann, how are you? These are the actual lyrics of that song, and most people don't realize there's lyrics to that song. And yes, that is the actual. Oh, thank you. I am going to start with other court cases and other things I'll be streaming at this time. The Karen Reed trial is a little unique, and thus I'm doing that. So good to see you, Johnny. If that's you, I don't know. I have several. So, what I'm talking about today is, I had lost my husband to prison in 2009 and did not know he was committing a crime. I was oblivious to the whole thing. So it was very difficult. And I testified in his hearing. Would I do that again? Probably not. But we have been watching court and we've been talking about people's testimonies all week. And we have been very critical of said testimonies all week. And I thought, do you know what? I want to come in and talk about my personal experience because I've had several personal experiences of testifying. I went through a situation which I do not quite care to share publicly. I've testified probably personally involving things that happened to me about 19, 20 times. So, kind of guess I'm an expert at testifying. Although one of them was 20 years ago, and the other one was, 2009, and the other one was 1999 and 2000 and 2001. So, yep, that's what it is. I have gotten some new stuff downloaded on my soundboard, and I got some fun stuff for court. Listen.
This guy was good.
Could y'all hear that?
This guy was good.
And here's another one.
I'm sorry, what?
All right, let's just admit it. That didn't happen.
Oh, no, you don't.
They're blowing smoke up my rear end so bad,
no,
I'm sending
you
off
don't.
smoke signals.
Wait.
I'm having fun. So, we will have some of those new buttons. I do not have TikTok yet. Never heard of the other one before, but I'll look into it. I actually just got on, what is it called? Discord today. I set up a Discord today. So I'm working on it, y'all. I'm growing and I'm working on it. Okay. One of the things is when I testified for the situation with my husband, I testified because I was asked and I wanted to. Oh, I'll have to look that up. I will look into it. And one of the things is that I thought by testifying it would help myself, my husband, and our family situation. I didn't know I was being thrown under the bus. So if you ever testify in a trial, get legal advice. You may not hire an attorney per se, but at least it's worth 150, $200 to sit there and discuss things with um, an attorney and find out whether you should or shouldn't. It didn't hurt me per se in the sense of I didn't do anything wrong. I had no legal litigation against me. I was not involved in what he had done. Once again, it was something I didn't know he had done for a long time. And then the other case that happened with the 18 other people that I testified against, it was a group situation that people had done, and I had to testify in each individual trial. That I should have had an attorney for because that was a lot of testimony. And the problem is you needed to keep your testimony as accurate as you can across the board because the people involved were pretty much charged with all the same crime, and I had privy information to that. So that said, I highly recommend that depending on your situation, get an attorney. Okay. When you go to court, you will be asked a lot of questions. And so you really want to practice. You really want to sit down with your attorney. You really want to prepare very well. One thing is that ask the lawyer to send you all the information he or she can to familiarize yourself with the case that they can give you. That is vitally important. Vitally important. If they can give you a list of questions they're going to ask you, um, you may be on that stand for 30 minutes, but honestly, unless it's a very short testimony, be prepared to be on that stand for quite a while. If you are there to discuss an evaluation, or for an example, if you're there as an expert trial witness, where this is not any part of that. This is about testifying for a beloved one or for somebody that you have a connection with, or as a witness yourself. And the crime may have been committed against yourself or your family members going to jail and you're testifying. So it's not as an expert witness. The thing about the testifying, when the person whom you've been subpoenaed and testifying for, they will prep you. You will go through the questions. They will talk to you. They will tell you how they want you to testify. They will watch your mannerisms and behaviors. They will watch what and how you do things. And then they will give you tips and things, advice, everywhere from the clothing to how you hold your hands to body language. Now, in the Karen Reed trial, I was really looking at that today with Jennifer McCabe, and I got to tell you, she's got a lot of telltale signs in her lying. And it is very, very, very obvious when you sit and watch it, not listening to necessarily the words as we were and taking notes and being critical of that, but more of in the sense of watching her body language with what she's saying. I'll go into some of that in a minute. Then you get to the cross-examination questions, which are very hard and difficult to predict. Your lawyers, if they're good and if they haven't, then you ask for it. Will have people come in and play they themselves, or someone on the law team will come in and ask you questions that they think you'll be asked or something similar to. But you have to be very careful because you have to be 100% certain that what you're saying is the truth. Because if not, when you get into cross-examination, they will start tearing you apart verbally about, breaking things down and get into the specifics. After I talk about this with my husband for a few, I'm going to tie it into the Karen Reed, because a lot of what I'm talking about is tying it into the Karen Reed case. I want people to understand when they're looking at all these people testifying, look for some of the clues, look for things that they're doing or not doing. It's not so much what you see, and what not you see, it's what you do see in the wrong places. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And this phase about my husband's going to be about 10 minutes. Use simple language. do not, even if you have a very vast, um, strong English language, you're highly educated, you've got a PhD, do not flex your verbal muscles, meaning keep it to where somebody in about the 10th grade can understand it. Do not add fancy words. Use terminology that's important to what you're testifying, but do not use words to embellish or to make it sound more fanciful. Keep it simple. Stupid is a very good phrase. That's a saying that we say in America, keep it simple, stupid, because the more you sound professional. Hi, Ronnie. Thank you for listening. If you're on the stand and you start throwing very fancy words, big educated college masters and PhD level words, you're going to lose the jury and you're going to come across as a pompous a-hole. Listen to the questions very carefully. Make sure you're comfortable with the answer before you say it. For example, we see that problem in the Karen Reed trial right now all the time. And when I was on the stand, um, one of the things they told me before I got on the witness stand multiple times is you don't have to answer right as the question is asked. You can take a minute and think about that answer, especially if they're compound answers, especially if it's the compound questions, are not objected to. And I got to say, in the Karen Reed trial, we're getting a lot of compound questions and nobody's objecting. Very few objections over the compound questioning. So when you get a compound question, for example, let me think of an example. When you left last night at 6 o'clock and you drove to the restaurant, what time did you leave? And then when you were done eating, what time did you leave? That's a compound question. The way to answer that is I left for the restaurant at 6 p.m. Make them ask the second question. When did you leave the restaurant to go home? 7:30. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, I left to go to the restaurant at 6 p.m. and it took me 15 minutes to drive there and we sat and ate for an hour. Then it took me another 15 minutes to get home, so I got home at 7:30." The narrative is what gets people in trouble. When you are answering questions or if you are on the stand or you're watching court TV, um, one of the biggest mistakes that witnesses get into and really causes problems, they don't answer just the question. They want to get their narrative in because sometimes they can ask you a question that you feel is incriminating to the person that you're testifying for. And you don't want that to stay out there. If the attorney, it's not your job to save the person, first of all. One thing I really liked about Carrie Roberts in the Karen Reed trial is she gave a very good testimony. She didn't add a whole lot of narrative to her questions unless it was required. She told her story, but she didn't embellish it. She didn't add to, and she didn't make it bigger than it was. So listen to the questions very carefully and feel comfortable in correcting something if it's wrong. Okay. What I mean by that is if this did happen in a trial I was in, and they had asked me a question along the lines of, you said in your deposition you knew somebody for 4.5 years. And they said, so you knew the person 4.5 years. How well do you think you know the person? That was kind of the gist of the question. And I did say, well, I'm sorry. Please read that again. In my deposition, I didn't say 4.5 years. I said 2.5 years. And that, once again, I didn't say I met them in this year. No. You correct it to the point and get out. The less you say, the better you are. The thing is you really need to make sure that you dictate the pace. And that is where we are seeing some of the situation with Jennifer McCabe in her testimony, especially in the cross. The lawyers are dictating the pace. They're talking real fast. They're throwing things at them real fast. They're trying to get them to answer fast. But no, lawyers often try to conduct a cross examination at a rapid pace in a way to confuse you, the witness. But they can't make you answer any faster. One thing that I practiced before getting on the stand was slowing my talk down, making sure that I took a good deep breath between the sentences and that I did not run on and talk real fast, because one of the things that people know more than anything about people who lie, one of the signs that people are lying is they talk real fast because they really want you to believe them. They want to vomit information on you and try to persuade you. So, talking clearly at a comfortable pace, taking breaths, you controlling your answer pace, don't let them bully you. And then, for example, if I'm cut off on the witness stand, I usually will turn to the judge and say, and I've done this, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I wasn't done answering. May I continue? And then I look straight ahead. I've done that a few times because sometimes they will cut you off in the middle of an answer because they want a part of the answer, but they don't want all the answer. We are really seeing this in the Karen Read trial a lot, y'all. We are seeing a lot of that in the Karen Read trial. And that's one of the things that really, really frustrate me is that for example, if the prosecution has a witness on the stand and the defense is cross-examining that witness, and the defense is usually the one that rushes these questions, it is up to the prosecution to sit there and say, objection, Your Honor. They're not allowing the witness to answer the question. So, but you have the right to look at the judge and say, Your Honor, I'm not being allowed to finish answering. You have the right to do that. Okay? Understand what your limitations are, no matter how thorough your evaluation is of the situation and your information that you have that you're trying to give across. If you have a question that you truly do not know the full answer to, you may say, I don't know. And it's perfectly good to say, I'm sorry, that's not the truth. You don't want to sound like, oh, no, they're lying. You got to keep your tone down, breathe through your pace, and say things like, I'm sorry, that's not the full truth. That's not true. That's not what I saw. That's not what I understand. You have the right to do that. Just because you're on that witness stand doesn't mean that you have to accept any kind of bullying whatsoever. So when you are practicing, and do you know what? I got to be honest. There are times where I've gone in for interviews and things to get grants and scholarships. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all. I need to get to my drum roll. Are you ready? I got a full ride to college. 100% full ride to college, y'all. I just got all my scholarship information in and I was like, full ride. So, but when you're in interviews, could y'all hear the drum roll? Could someone tell me? Because I just programmed some of these sounds in my soundboard and I want to make sure you're hearing them. So when you're in interviewings or you sit down with your boss or you're in a situation where you're having to tell your side of the story, the advice I'm giving you right now really helps. And one of the things is you want to maintain eye contact with the person you're talking to. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. But the first court appearance for a person is very scary. It's very intimidating. The courthouse will be packed, somewhat chaotic. It's controlled chaos. So, one, you always want to be truthful. Yay! Thank you, Anne. Can you, before you go, tell me if you heard the drum roll? And this is my first sponsor, the Hitchman Homestead Shooter Shack Coffee. So consider your words before you speak. Make sure your tone is a pleasant tone, even if the situation's bad. Now, you didn't hear it? Okay. I'll work on that. The thing is that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to have, if the situation is like, if you're the sister or brother or family member to somebody that was um, unlawfully harmed and deceased. I have to be careful with my words. Um, Emotions are fine, just not out of control. Just sad emotions, if happy is appropriate, anger is never okay. Frustration, try to keep that to a minimal. We're seeing a lot of that in the Karen Reed trial. Jennifer McCabe was out of control. But then when you looked at Brian Higgins, his emotions were kept far more under control. You could see he wasn't happy. You didn't hear he was unhappy. And he wasn't getting angry and spitting venom and getting that face. And he wasn't doing any of that. You could tell he wasn't happy and it was unpleasant, but he was far more controlled than Jennifer McCabe was. You want to properly present yourself for court. That means you want to dress appropriately. You want to cover up tattoos somewhat if you have anything that's inappropriate. Long sleeve apparently is, for cover up. If you've got them on your hands, you can't hide everything. If you have something that's offensive, you need to cover it. Definitely, definitely. You need to keep your jewelry to a minimum. You just need to look like you are professional. You don't have to have fancy clothes. It could just be a white button-down shirt and a pair of slacks. For men, in a tie, if you don't own a tie, button it up and leave the top collar. Your lawyer will go over all that. But it's vitally important, especially women, not to dress in a way that has cleavage, anything that could be suggestive in any way. Also, once again, keep the jewelry at a minimum, because here's the thing. The jurors are looking at you and they're distracted easily. I'll be honest, when you sit on that jury stand all day for 5 or 6 days, or right now going into week 5 of the Karen Reed trial, and somebody has something that's blingy, shiny, eye-catching on, a problem is it's going to distract and they're going to forget. They're going to be more focused and thinking, wow, that's gorgeous, but they're missing testimony. Be relaxed as you can. Don't take medication to relax you. Avoid any kind of drinking or anything that can cause you to be overly relaxed. Do not chew gum. We've had witnesses come in and chewing gum. Once again, I speak clearly. Take a breath. Take a sip of water. Here's a tactic, y'all. I was taught this by the lawyers when I had to testify. Always make sure you have a bottle of water up there. If they don't provide one, bring one for yourself, because when the prosecution starts getting fast paced, starts getting to where you're uncomfortable with them, resets the tone. That 10 seconds to kind of reset the tone, that is a control method to help you, number one, take a breath, and it will also make them take a breath, okay? If you don't understand a question, please ask them to clarify the question, ask it another way, but don't abuse that, because that's another control issue. When we have that a lot in the Karen Reed trial right now, where they're saying, for example, at what time did you arrive at the Waterford Bar and Grill? I'm sorry, can you rephrase that? That actually happened. Don't say that to things that are very clear as a controlling thing on your part. But if you truly don't understand the question, or there's several ways you can answer that, then you definitely can say, Your Honor, or you can say, the way you phrased this question, I can't give a yes or no question. A lot of times, yes or no's are very important. If they give you a yes and no question, Were you wearing a red coat the night of the incident? Yes. Did you take that coat off at any time? No. That's all you have to do. But if you go, no, I didn't take it off because it was super cold in there. And then later on, they turned the heat on and then I took it off. Okay, so the lawyer will go, so you did take the coat off while it was there? No, I didn't take it off until about 4 hours after being there. And don't fidget like this. So we're seeing this stuff in the Karen Reed trial, and that's kind of why I'm talking about it. You never know when you will get subpoenaed to testify. So this is important. Do not try to anticipate questions. That is so happening on this Karen Reed trial that's driving me crazy. They get in a flow and they're anticipating a question and they're answering that question before the lawyer is finished asking the question. The reason is, the reason why that's so difficult, you have a court reporter and she is either mouth dictating or she's doing it on the machine, and they have to hear both question and answer clearly. When you cross and talk over each other, the judge gets irritated, the court reporter gets irritated, the witness is irritated, and the jury gets irritated. And the problem with all of that is that's exactly what the defense attorneys or the opposing questioning, because you may be testifying for the cross-examining persons want to happen. So it is your responsibility to answer the questions, but wait for the question to be answered. And wherever possible or required, just yes and no. Don't add to, don't take away. If you're asked a difficult question with several components, it's acceptable for you to request attorney to rephrase it. We talked about that. Avoid interfering conclusion from conclusions of the information. You are not required to express your opinion or to draw a conclusion about the facts of the situation unless you're specifically requested to do so. We saw that, we're seeing that again here, but in the Karen Reed, but we're also saw a lot of that in the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial, Johnny Depp trial. Do not express your opinions of the situation. I believe she was doing that. Yes, because I believe she was doing this to get back at Johnny. No. Yes or no. I believe, I think, I would hope none of that needs to come out of your mouth. What happens when you start doing all this is the jury starts kind of building up I'm not too sure. It's not that they're consciously thinking that you're not telling the truth or you're not being honest, but the more you put in your own conclusion or opinions, we saw that a lot with Jennifer McCabe. It really starts to look bad. Even though what you're saying is accurate and true, it can harm the situation by you putting your own 2 cents worth in. Do not. Just make sure you know what you know. Make no guesses. Provide as much detail as possible. Do not limit or exaggerate your information. If you don't remember fully, state, all I remember is this. I don't have a recollection of that. Do not abuse the I cannot remember, I cannot recall. Because if you're sitting in trial, we're hearing a ton of that in this trial with Karen Reed. When we're sitting here listening to the Karen Reed trial and you've got like Colin Albert or several other people, I don't remember, I don't recall, I can't remember, I don't know. That really irritates the jury. You start coming across in a way that is just not in the best of light. You want to, if you can't remember everything, you can say something like, I have partial memory of this. This is all I can testify to. But the more you abuse that, it just doesn't bode well. You need to keep your composure. We're not seeing that very well in this trial with the Karen Reed. I just feel that there are so many witnesses in this trial that they are not as well prepared for the trial as they should be. Remember to avoid smiling, acting unhappy as you approach the witness stand. While speaking, maintaining eye contact with the jurors can be good or can be bad. Rather than attempting to remember your testimony, just recount what occurred in your own words. That is very important. When we are looking at, and I'm going to go after we get done with this, I'm going to go live again real quickly. And I want to talk, I'm going to be talking a lot about the Jennifer McCabe versus the Carrie Roberts testimony. But when you're sitting here talking and you're like, the snowplow pulled up at 2:53 a.m. because I looked at my watch. That look and come back obviously is a lot of times shows deceit. The jurors don't like it. If you want to get a good example of it, go to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial and watch Amber Heard's testimony. That is the perfect example of what not to do. If I am on the jury stand right now and I am facing the lawyer, I'm going to be talking to the lawyer. I am not going to sit here and go, well, yesterday I went to the grocery store and on the way there, I saw this car that had gunshot wounds and gunshot bullet holes on the side of it. Well, I assumed it came from, you can't do that. Don't do that. We are seeing a lot of that in this trial. So once again, that also kind of shows, that kind of makes the jury feel like you are really trying to win them over. You are looking, oh, no wonder this didn't feel right. Sorry, guys. You were trying to win their approval. And that is creepy. Oh, you avoid using the phrases I believe, I think, always, and never. That is being said again a lot in this trial. Why? The expressions to communicate to the judge or jury your lack of confidence and apprehension over your testimony. By avoiding using the absolute, such as always and never, your responses and cautiousness of inquiries that include such phrases. Meaning, when you say, I believe yesterday we went and got, that's not a clear communication. You know what you did yesterday. And that is one thing that really came across in the trial with Karen Reed. I think Brian Higgins said it a few times the other day. Also, I think I paid $10 for it. Now, there are some things that you may think you remember, but when you say it that way, it just continues to create doubt for your testimony. I always put on my blinker when I take a right or left hand turn. Y'all, when always comes out of a mouth, we automatically know you're lying. How many watching right now can say they emphatically always have put their blinker on and never forgot to do it? Yeah, that is why. Try to avoid that word. But, for example, she always puts her hearing aids on. That would be me. If they said, if say I'm on trial and you're testifying on my behalf, and they asked you about my hearing aid usage, I cannot recall one day that I've not put on my hearing aids when I have had them in my possession. So if I was testifying for myself in that, I would say, other than the times that I've known her hearing aids were being repaired, and even then she had replacement hearing aids, Ada always puts on her hearing aids and has them on. And that is true. Okay, avoid amusing or joking in court. That's just self explanatory. And then the thing is do not share your testimony with other people before you get on the stand. Do not talk about what's going on with your friends and family. Do not sit there and have a powwow and go over your testimony and have friends and family practice with you. It can really get sticky if you're asked on the stand like they did with Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts, because they got together and discussed the timeline even well before anybody came in, any interview with the police or anything like that. So when I was going through the testifying and prepping for trials and prepping for everything when I lost my husband, um, one of the things is that it was adamant, do not discuss your testimony with anybody. All of this is going to happen. Now, let's talk about what really happens when you get on that stand. I've discussed all that here, but once all of this is said and done and you get on the stand, you're sworn in. Now, here's something you need to know. A lot of big cases. Now, I'm not talking your petty cases. Ours was a big case. A lot of these cases, a lot of times, attorneys will have somebody there watching you. And one of the things is when you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. When you sit there, your hand can be like, I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but that is scared to death. And the jury and everybody's going to know it. Yeah, I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So that's lazy. That means a lot of people will sit there. When I see this, it's like, I don't know if you're taking this very serious. Just put your hand as flat as you can, like you're putting it on the wall. It's not that you can't have some separations. You don't want this, but be very mindful of your body language and how you're moving. Don't fidget in the chair. Don't tap around on anything because it drives everybody crazy. After I testify, well, first of all, if you have a disability like I did, and I was very hard of hearing at that time, I wasn't deaf. Both attorneys were told they needed to literally stand right within 2 to 3 feet facing me, not to. Some attorneys may look down, some may, pace and go sideways. They were told you must look at her at all times. She has to be able to see your lips to fill in and understand. That worked great for the direct. It worked great for the cross, but my ex-husband's attorney threw me under the bus and I didn't know it because he was standing over there, way over there at his table, and he started asking me a question and he looked down. And my mistake is I did not confident in myself say, I'm sorry, I need you to look at me. I need you to repeat that, please. And I misunderstood the question. Of course, the answer wasn't what they were looking for, and you heard an audible, but I couldn't fix it. Now, later on, I think the judge did say something as to the effect that that there's a possible misunderstanding. And so, with that, after you get off the stand, if you are, some courts will sit here like I haven't seen this with a Karen Reed. Everybody just gets off the stand and walks off. But a lot of times, as they get ready to leave, the judge will ask, "Are you going to recall? Do you want us to hold for recall?" They'll say yes or no. If they fully release you, then you can sit in the courtroom. You can listen. If they don't fully release you, you have to leave the courtroom. You cannot listen because there's a chance they'll call you back. Now, after you've testified and the court is still going on, people may ask you questions. Do not answer questions pertaining to anything you have said on that stand. You have the right to remain silent. You are not the accused. You have a right to have a life of your own. As you're seeing in the Karen Reed trial, news media, everybody wants to, you cannot do that during the trial. Even if a news media walks up to you and questions you about your testimony on the stand, until the verdict is given, until sentencing is done, it is highly advisable you keep your opinions and your mouth closed. Very difficult to do. It is very emotionally draining, physically draining, and I have to tell you that it took me a couple of days to recover, especially when you're on the stand for more than 10, 15 minutes. This is not an easy thing. And with the George Kelly trial, the wife got on the stand like I did. Now, he has to give consent and she has to be willing to testify. It is not a given that you have to testify as a spouse. If you're a spouse like I was, I chose to testify because I believed at that time in his innocence. And so do I now. But I did what the best I could do with the information I had at the time. Somebody asked me years later, don't you regret it? And I said, no. I did what I knew to do with what information I had at the time. I didn't have any information at the time that would lead me to think or believe that there was guilt. Okay. Now, you also have a right as a spouse to say no. And there's nothing anybody can do. It is by choice. And even if you want to, if your spouse doesn't want you to, you cannot testify. But with Miss George Kelly, Miss Kelly got on the stand and testified, and it was brutal, y'all. If you don't, if you want to know anything about that, go and watch the days of Mrs. Kelly testifying in the George Kelly trial in Arizona. It was brutal, and it is not fun. It is emotional because your life is getting ready to change forever, for good or worse, more so for worse. If found guilty, you will lose a lot. Not only your relationship with loss, the loss of income from your spouse, possibly the loss of home, like I did, the loss of everything, the support, the insurance, everything is gone. So you need to be prepared. But tonight we're just talking about testifying. I was a nervous wreck before testifying. Every time I was a nervous wreck. And one time I went to bed the night before, I couldn't sleep, tossed and turned. I took a sleeping pill. Let me tell you, that was very difficult to get myself engaged for that hearing. So, not recommended. We should not be talking about sleeping because now I'm getting tired. But that said, that is all. I really think I think I've thrown a lot at you. But if you find yourself needing to testify for any reason, whether you're subpoenaed to court, whether you choose to testify, please prepare. Watch this video, ask for help from the attorneys, go through the checklist. If you already know what some of the questions are going to be asked, don't you know them, but one last bit of advice is don't over prepare. You do not want to come across like you know it all. And in other words, your answers are so good, so clean that you're like a robot. That also creates doubt because then it looks like the attorneys have, for lack of a better word, brainwashed you. But then when the defense gets up there and they start hitting you and twisting your words and manipulating and doing everything they can to poke holes in your testimony, you will unravel. So prepare, don't over prepare. Be confident in your answers. What you don't know, you don't know. Don't add to, don't take away. Don't do anything that will jeopardize your testimony by losing your cool, being argumentative. I mean, if you want to see a testimony that didn't go well, look at the Jennifer McCabe testimony in this Karen Reed trial. She was more about selling her testimony than the testimony itself. And then she wanted everybody to know how much harassment and how horrible it was. It was all about her. That's not the time. I went through the harassment. I went through worse than what she went through. Far worse than what she went through. Far longer. It's been 13 years. Let's see. No, 9 minus, yeah, it's been 09 and this is 24 and I still run into crap. So understand that no matter how bad it's been for you, no matter what's happened to you, unless asked by one of the lawyers, just answer the questions. Because here's the thing, a lot of this testimony would be shorter if people would just say yes, no, answer the question, and you're done. If you really fight them and give them hell and give all the explanations and add to and do everything that we've talked about not doing, it's going to multiply your time up there and make it a lot more difficult. Okay, so with that, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to let you go. I try to keep it under an hour for this particular live. I'm going to try and go on at 8 o'clock. For those of you who want to join me, I'm going to be talking about the Karen Reed, and we're going to be really talking about the Jennifer McCabe and the Carrie Roberts testimony and talking about the body language and her lying and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try and reboot, and I'll see some of y'all later. Next, I was trying to go on every week with the jail widow, but the problem is this trial has gotten me overloaded. So I hope to go on next week. I think the next week topic is going to be public perception. And we'll go into that in more detail. Once again, mods, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Those who are in the US and those who are across the ocean, come back in about 10 minutes and we're going to really start diving into the testimony. And hopefully you'll come join me there. Thanks again. Have a great night. Bye.